Time to come to order for Portland City Council meeting of June 28th, 2017. Carla, can you please call the roll?
Fish.
Here.
Saltzman. Fritz.
Here.
Wheeler. Udaly.
Here. Before we start, I need to read our rules of conduct. The purpose of council meetings is to do the city's business, including hearing from the community on issues of concern. In order for us to hear from everyone and to give due consideration to matters before council, we must all endeavor to preserve the order and decorum of these meetings. To make sure that the process is clear for everyone, I want to review some of the basic guidelines, which I hope will help everyone feel comfortable, welcome, respected, and safe at the meeting, and also ensure that decorum is maintained. There are two opportunities for public participation. First, we have an opportunity for people to sign up for communications to briefly speak about any subjects they wish to address. These items must be scheduled in advance with the clerk's office. Second, people may sign up for public testimony on the first readings of reports, resolutions, and ordinances. If you sign up, your testimony must address the matter being considered at the time. Please state your name for the record. We don't need your address. If you're a lobbyist, please disclose that. And if you're here representing an organization, please identify the organization. Individuals have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When you have 30 seconds left, the yellow light will light up at the desk here. And when your time is done, the red light will come on, and there'll also be an audio cue. Conduct that disrupts the meeting, for example, shouting or interrupting others' testimony or interrupting during council deliberations, will not be allowed. People who disrupt the meeting face ejection from the meeting. If there is a disruption, I will issue a warning that if any further disruption occurs, anyone who is disrupting the meeting will be subject to ejection for the remainder of the meeting. Anyone who fails to leave the meeting after being ejected will be subject to arrest for trespass. We really don't want that to happen today, friends. If folks would like to show your support, please do thumbs up or twinkle fingers. If you want to express that you do not support something, thumbs down. Thank you, and let's get started with before we get started with council communications, I want to make a quick announcement. And that is, if any of you are here for the ordinance amending the Southwest Dolph Spring Garden LID, it's not going to be heard today. It has been rescheduled to Wednesday, July 5th, beginning at 9:30 a.m. on the regular agenda. The council clerk will continue to accept any written testimony, including remonstrances, until the conclusion of the new hearing date on July 5th. So, now, Carla, can you please call the first item?
Item 738, request of Michael Jennings to address council regarding areas of insufficient Portland City management.
Welcome. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Michael Jennings. My company is Future Power Incorporated. In almost a year of reporting some what appear to be very serious defects in Portland City contracts, I have gotten no response. I've sent information to perhaps 40 people, and no one has responded. I find that interesting that there seems to be no way to contact anybody of the city and get them to explain or to consider some issues. It seems to me that there's very serious concerns about the lack of openness. I've reported concerns about the renovation of the Southwest 10th and Yamhill parking structure for almost a year. there are many, many wacky details concerning that project. 60 people will be evicted and lose their jobs. More than 900 artists will lose a place to sell their work. And maybe there's a sensible underlying reason for that, but there's been no response from anybody involved with the city. It's interesting that the Portland City Auditor is allowed to audit only with the permission of city commissioners. So there's no real auditing. Everywhere I look, I see that there's a lack of supervision.
Sir, can I just clarify
Yes.
something? Because I think we know each other. I think you put a friend of the court brief in on the arts tax. Just to be
That's true.
clear, the auditor independently selects both what is to be audited and the schedule of audits. And with the most recent charter changes, she has even greater independence. But she does not depend on the city to. The city has no role in selecting the agencies and the sequencing of audits.
Well, thank you very much for saying that. I talked with somebody in the auditor's office, and they said they did not have, no, this was maybe 3 months ago, they said that they did not have permission to consider these issues, these 9 issues that I'm trying to bring before the city council now.
Excuse me, are they all connected with the Yamhill garage?
No,
Okay.
no. And there's more than 9, it's just I'm presenting 9 in this document today.
Commissioner,
And
one
there's-
is Ban the Bag, and one is Columbia River Crossing, another one is the arts tax, and I believe this gentleman
Oh, we
submitted
just got it handed out. Okay.
submitted a friend of the court brief against the arts tax and other things. And some of these, quite frankly, are beyond the scope of the city, so that may be why the auditor said that, but I don't want to...
Well, no, the auditor said that the auditor had no ability to audit. That's what they clearly said, no question. I talked to somebody there.
I believe she's not allowed to audit the Portland Development Commission, and that's who's managing the Yamhill garage.
Yes. Very quickly, there are 2 ways I could be helpful. The city is making mistakes with homeless people. I've spent 4 hours every week for 4 years. Can I go on for, good. I could be helpful there in telling you how to address the
Okay,
homeless
well,
issue.
We stopped the clock.
And say again, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, and very quickly, I could analyze and help the redevelopment of PDC. There's a lot in here documenting many problems with the PDC. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item.
Item 739, request of Eric Maher to address council regarding cancellation of some Rose Parade activities.
Good morning, my name is Eric Marr. I'd say Mr. Mayor, but he's not here. Honorable members of the City Council, good morning. I am here today as an impartial citizen to go on the record. I was inspired to do this because of the cancellation of a Rose Parade event last April due to threats. It appears the organizers had little confidence in the mayor or the police department to maintain order and protection. I was outraged how entitled, cowardly idiots could put this type of fear in our community with impunity. I am equally disappointed, though, in the organization's decision makers to cancel the event. A decision based on fear is usually the wrong one. Coincidentally, a decision by the mayor to attempt to revoke another event permit of an organization confirmed to me the manipulative discouragement of one political point of view and the encouragement of another opposite point of view. The First Amendment to me is under attack in Portland. Whether the threat comes from a violent protest group or the mayor himself, it is an attack on the First Amendment. Any attempt to infringe on that right is, at the very least, un-American. If safety is truly the motivation here, then the City Council should take a proactive approach by enacting and enforcing a law making the concealment of one's identity in a public space illegal. Such a law would protect those who wish to assemble peacefully without encouraging danger or threats of violence, and I believe such a law would have very broad appeal. Currently, freedom of expression in Portland is being hijacked by groups motivated to destroy public and private property, intimidate those they don't agree with, and generally create chaos. The common denominator among these groups is that they are all masked and unidentifiable. Now, our founders obviously intended the First Amendment to be a broad, sweeping statement. As you know, freedom of speech is not absolute. For example, you cannot wear a mask in a bank or yell fire in a movie theater, which is why there are many states and cities around the country that ban disguises in public places except under special circumstances like Mardi Gras and Halloween. California, New York, and Washington, D.C. are examples of these. Now, I strongly believe a similar law would protect the citizens and businesses of Portland and greatly inhibit future violence and destruction. Recently, Portland has been in the news for all the wrong reasons. Bad press alone has probably cost our city millions. Provocateurs come to Portland to cause harm. They have no sense of civic duty, they are not concerned about the public welfare, and there appears to be no consequence for their actions. We need to give law enforcement the ability to protect the citizens and businesses of Portland. It's an honor to be here. I thank you for the opportunity, and I hope the City Council will courageously draft a law that will protect the First Amendment for all of its citizens, not just the ones they agree with. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla,
I
next
think
item.
the challenge that has come up in the past is that the Oregon Constitution is even more firm on freedom of speech and expression. It says, shall not be abridged in any way whatsoever. So we have looked into some of those kinds of concerns and have been advised that that's not going to work in Oregon.
That's wrong.
Okay.
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Item 740, request of Nate Cohen to address council regarding emergency medical services delivery.
Is Mr. Cohen here? No.
Excuse me, Madam President. Going back to the first item, I'm happy to have my staff look through the paper that we were given and help figure out who should who should address each issue. Unless somebody else would rather do it.
Who should address each issue?
The things that Mr. Jennings brought forward, he's got 8 things.
Be
if
my
you'd
guest. Carla, next item.
Item 741, request of Holly Elaine Hooper to address council regarding Southwest 10th and Yamhill Smart Park Garage update and eviction of tenants. They are not able to make, she's not able to make it. Item 742, request of Diane Shute to address council regarding Southwest 10th and Yamhill Smart Park Garage renovation and its effect on the art community. They both were not going to come, they said.
Let's check the time. Oh, perfect. We have a time certain. So Carla, please call the next item.
Let's do the
We don't
consent.
have consent.
Oh, excuse me.
No consent.
Item 743, accept report on the 2017 Summer Free for All program.
Commissioner Fritz, are you going to introduce this item?
Thank you, Madam President. We are so happy to present this annual overview of what we're going to be doing in the Summer Free for All program, which has become beloved, especially since under Commissioner Fisher's leadership of Portland Parks and Recreation during the recession. We really put more emphasis on free activities that people could do on staycations when it was very difficult to find the money to travel anywhere. This year, we're going to have 400 events at 77 different sites in just 12 weeks. Free movies, concert lunches, activities for children, and now free fitness classes in Portland Parks and Recreation. This really is something that everybody can participate on one level or another, and that community is joining with us in providing these programs. Commissioner Saltzman is always particularly concerned about summer lunches for children who may not get enough food at home over the summer, and Summer Free for All bridges that gap. Last year we served over 110,000 of them, and this year I'm sure we're going to do better than that even. We remember that 1 in 4 children in Oregon live in poverty, and 57% of Portland kids qualify for free or reduced lunches during the school year. And so that means there's about 50,000 children or more who are struggling over the summer to secure food. And we just want everybody to have a good time. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Mike Abate and our team in Portland Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Commissioner, members of council. Mike Abate, Director of Portland Parks and Recreation. I'm joined today by Sue Pack, Arts and Culture and Special Events Manager, and also Kelly Torres, our Development Manager. And as you know, the mission of Portland Parks and Recreation is to help Portlanders play. And last year, during the reorganization, we created the Department of Arts, Culture, and Special Events, bringing together our existing art centers and programs under a unified management. And we're fortunate enough to have Sue Pack moved to Portland from New York to accept that leadership role. With this change, the Bureau not only renewed its commitment to the arts, but recognized the important role that arts and culture play in creating community and advancing equity, for that matter. As you know, in the budget process just recently concluded, there was a realignment package within Parks budget, and as Summer Free-for-All falls within the new Arts and Culture Department, that program has grown significantly over the years, and at the same time, costs have risen and funding sources have fluctuated. And so this year, we worked in earnest to right-size the program, and you approved in the budget a realignment package to bring Summer Free-for-All within budget while optimizing service and minimizing harm. Some of the reductions included changing the Washington Park Summer Concert Festival from 4 nights to 3, although I'll say for this year, because of the construction that's happening at Washington Park, we'll have one event, the Rose Garden Centennial event, 1 concert, but for ongoing there will be 3 concerts in the summer there. We needed to eliminate the traveling rock wall climbing program, and we reduced program hours and sites where lunch service and participation are low, but at the same time expanded those programs in high need areas. Also of note, I know there's been some concern about Brooklyn Park's summer program, and that was discontinued due to low numbers related to the realignment package. However, just to give you an update, the neighborhood intends to start their own community-driven and community-funded program with the support and guidance of the Bureau. So I'd like to also thank City Council for its ongoing general support of roughly $500,000 for Summer Free-for-All. And with that, we are able to leverage about $1.3 million in additional cash and in-kind support from corporate and community partners that enable us to provide life and community-affirming activities that serve almost 300,000 Portlanders every summer. With that, I'd like to introduce to you Sue Pack, our new Arts, Culture, and Special Events Manager. She'll tell you a little bit more about our programs this summer.
Good morning, Council. It's a pleasure to be before you today, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve as the Bureau's Arts and Culture Manager. At Portland Parks and Recreation, we believe that arts and culture are powerful vehicles that allow Portlanders to celebrate our diverse cultures, heritage, and identities, provide pathways to self-expression, self-discovery, and self-empowerment, and help to bridge greater understanding and dialogue across cultures and communities. Within the past year, there have been many positive changes within Summer Free-for-All. We have diversified staff and continue to strengthen the team's cultural competency. We are building new community partnerships and evolving programs to be more responsive and reflective of Portland's growing diversity. We have integrated last year's successful Innovation Fund program, Fitness in the Park, as part of the Summer Free-for-All brand. And finally, we are increasing lunch distribution to all our playground program sites from 27 locations last year to 35 this summer to better serve kids most in need. As always, Summer Free-for-All will present some of the most popular blockbuster and classic movies and favorite musical artists, all showcased in our marketing materials printed in 9 different languages. We have also been working to diversify our programs. To name just a few artists making their Summer Free-for-All debut, the hip-hop and funk group Speaker Minds, pictured here, the Somali group Iftin Band, the Tongan and Pacific Islander ensemble Mosi Mosi Kula, and the Native American music and dance group Painted Sky North Star Dance Company. We are also building new and more inclusive program partnerships. In collaboration with PDX Latinx Pride, we are presenting our first LGBTQ family-friendly event. We have invited the youth-focused artist collective Young, Gifted, and Brown to join us at lunch sites to provide kids' music programs. And this year also marks the third year partnering with Latino Network on Festival Latino. Summer Free for All could not happen without our 71 neighborhood and partner groups and the countless volunteers who help us run Summer Free for All. And of course, the school districts of Portland Public Schools, David Douglas, and Centennial that make our free lunch program possible. I would also like to recognize Summer Free for All staff who work behind the scenes to make this fun but incredibly complex program seem easy. The team is here with us today, and staff, if you wouldn't mind standing up for a moment. I would like to recognize Charity Montez, Jed Arkley, Alex Diaz, Jameson Holtz, Siobhan McKinstry, Nim Suto, Corey Falbo, and Boomer Sisler. I'd like to thank them for their talents, commitment to public service, and resilience and good cheer during a time of tremendous change. Thank you. I would also like to thank Kelly Torres and the Community Relations team for their partnership at the Bureau on Summer Free for All. Kelly is our new development manager, who will now speak about her sponsors and supporters.
Good morning. Summer Free for All is a community building endeavor. Adding to the City of Portland's contribution, leveraged revenue sources include $275,000 in local business and community neighborhood sponsorships and $1 million in in-kind contributions. A significant portion of this in-kind support includes advertising in Spanish. Some of the most heartening stories of Summer Free for All stem from targeted commitments made to ensure Portland families have access to free lunches and structured play all summer long. Momentarily, you will have an opportunity to hear how very personal Bank of America's connection is to this specific mission. Each year, we are humbled and inspired by the support of many. Portland Parks and Recreation is grateful for every gift of time, talent, and treasure that makes Summer Free for All possible. In the printed schedule and on this slide, you can see the very impressive number of sponsors we are acknowledging this year. Several of our corporate sponsors donate through our partner, the Portland Parks Foundation, and many are consistent annual contributors with a long history of Summer Free for All giving. They provide significant savings for the program and enable us to broaden our marketing outreach and program capacity. Commissioners, if you have ideas about additional sponsors that we should invite to participate in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Director Abate, or Sue. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce two guests to speak with us today. The first is Kara Stoudemire Phillips. She's a community leader. And the second will be Joe Dang from Bank of America. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Council. It's wonderful to be back here with you all again, providing testimony for yet another wonderful program. Again, my name is Kara Stoudemire Phillips, and I serve as the treasurer of the Boise Neighborhood Association. And by day, I work at MODA, where I direct our corporate social responsibility. MODA has also been a longtime supporter of Portland Parks and Recreation and also the Portland Parks Foundation. Our newest endeavor, our latest partnership with Portland Parks is our support of Cully Park and bringing all ability access play equipment to that park. But today, I'm here to talk about Summer Free for All and how excited I am about it. My involvement with Summer Free for All has been bringing movies in the park to Unthink Park. I grew up in North Portland, Boise neighborhood all of my life, and became involved with our neighborhood association when I moved back from undergrad from California, and got immediately involved and learned about the Movies in the Park program and went and reached out to our historic Mississippi Business Association, who partners with us in bringing this movie to the park. Each year, it's very important to me and to our neighborhood association, also the business association, to bring a relevant movie to that park. We always try to find something that's going to be relevant to the African American community, which is the historical community that was in that neighborhood. So this year, we are very excited that we're bringing Hidden Figures, and I'm sure you're very familiar with that movie. And we are going to have that movie at the park on Friday, August 11th, and we've reached out to some community partners. We're going to be partnering with the Blazer Boys and Girls Club, Self-Enhancement Incorporated, Kairos School, and also the Boise Elliott Humboldt PTA. So we are just thrilled about this, and we're going to fill that park up. So another reason why this is very important to our neighborhood is that you all know about our neighborhood has experienced many, many years of gentrification. And for me and for many people in the neighborhood, it's a reunion. At that park, Peninsula Park, several of the parks that have movies in the park, it is a neighborhood community reunion. There's people that grew up there that don't live in the neighborhood anymore that come back to bring their kids because of the movie titles, because we are so focused on making it be a relevant movie. And then there's new neighbors there too. There's times when I've seen people, you're rushing as you're going to work in the morning and you don't always get to talk to your neighbors, but there's been times where that's where I've met a neighbor that I don't usually have the time to talk to, but you remember saying hi to them, and you actually get to stop, talk to them, meet their kids, meet their families, and I really feel like it's a community gathering, and that's why those movies in the park and those concerts in the parks are so important to me, and they're free. That's the best part. They're free. I would love to go to some of the other concerts and take my kids, but I don't want to pay all that money to take kids that aren't going to sit through. But you're at a park, you can take them over, they can play as well if they get bored with the movie, and it's a neighborhood gathering, and I love it, and I'm looking forward to it, and our neighborhood association will continue to support it, and we're very proud that our business association understands the importance of it as well. A lot of those businesses are new people to our neighborhood, and so we've shared with them the history of the neighborhood and why this is so important, and it's great to have their support as well. One thing that I would say, if I could ask City Council for anything, though I know the city supports this wonderful program very much, but there's always a need for more funding and always a need for more staff. And I go to several of these events at various parks, and I see the same people, and they're working very hard, and they're working very long hours. And if there was something that I could ask for, it would definitely be more funding and more staff support. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Joe Dang, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak here today to share why I and Bank of America, where I work, supports the Free Lunch and Play program. Bank of America is a proud sponsor of the Free Lunch and Play program and has been supporting this work for the past 4 years. As an organization, we are committed to tackling food insecurity in our community and are honored to be part of providing children and families with nutritious free lunches throughout the summer through our partnership with Portland Parks. Bank of America doesn't just show their support through funds. They create opportunities for employees to give time through volunteerism. I'm on the Bank of America Community Volunteer Committee, and for the past 2 years, I have taken on the role as the liaison between Bank of America and Portland Parks and Recreation to coordinate volunteers for the Free Lunch and Play program. This year, 15 employees will volunteer at 5 Free Lunch and Play sites. I was born in North Portland and raised in St. John's. My dad was a single father of 3 boys, and I recall benefiting from Portland Parks and Recreation summer programs as a kid, specifically the free lunch program. My little brothers and I looked forward to the lunches prior to swimming the afternoon away at the Pier Park pool. I had forgotten about this until my first year as a volunteer with Portland Parks last year. My favorite part about volunteering is seeing the joy the Free Lunch and Play program brings to the children. I know personally of the comfort in knowing that there's going to be a meal, not only for yourself, but for your brothers and sisters. These are meals children might not be getting otherwise, especially during the summer months. This is the very reason I take pride in the partnership with Portland Parks. It allows me to give back to the very community and city that I grew up in. Again, thank you for the opportunity to share my story. I look forward to being part of Summer Free for All for many years to come. City funding is critical for this program, and it is appreciated in the community. Your support encourages corporations like Bank of America and their employees to give back in meaningful ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla, is there any public testimony?
I believe everybody spoke.
All right. Is there a motion to move this item?
I move the report.
Second.
Fantastic. Commissioner Fish moves, Commissioner Fritz seconds. Is there any discussion? Carla, please call the roll.
Fish.
Well, thank you for an excellent report. I'm ready to issue my verdict, which is I think this is the most beautiful program that you have produced to date. And I'm also excited by how many languages you have printed it in. So it is truly accessible, which reflects at her core the values of the commissioner in charge. So Commissioner Fritz, thank you for taking this program to the next level. Thank you to your terrific staff. We welcome transplanted New Yorkers. We welcome heartily transplanted New Yorkers in this body. And thank you for continuing what I think we collectively know is one of the great traditions in our city, which is opening our parks to free family-friendly events every year. And I want to particularly call out the fact that as I skimmed your list of offerings, you've made a real concerted effort this year to celebrate local artists. I appreciate the fact that in a city that has great dance and great jazz and great blues and great ethnic music, you're showcasing some of the best of that in our parks. And I've already circled the 4 or 5 concerts I'll be attending. So thank you for your good work. I'm very pleased to support it. Aye.
Fritz.
Well, this is definitely one of the most wonderful and heartwarming reports of the year. And thank you. I'm really proud to be associated with it. Thank you, the staff, for taking it to the next level as well. It's in some ways misnamed, though. Some are free for all. Yes, it's free to attend, but it's not free, as Kara's noticed. It has to need both taxpayers' money and corporate sponsorship. So we're very grateful to those who are helping to make it work, including committees in every neighborhood who help select the movies and the concerts, and then walk around with buckets at what I always call halftime, but I don't think that's what it's called in a concert. So I'm very grateful to everybody who steps up and does this wonderful program. Can't but refrain from saying thank you to Harry Auerbach, our city attorney that's assigned to Parks, who is retiring this year very shortly. And so we had a lovely ceremony at Director Park yesterday. So thank you, Harry, because yes, it's fun and games, and also we have to make sure that we have the liability insurance and all those other things. If you doubt that, you should have been at Brooklyn Park last summer when a gust of wind threatened to take away the movie screen, and all of the young volunteers leapt on it at once. It was quite the most exciting thing I've seen in a park for some time, and definitely an indication of why we have to be very careful in planning and programming it. Thank you to Eileen Argentina as well for your leadership of recreation in parks, and to Christina Nieves and Pooja Bhatt in my staff, and Director Mike Abate. This is certainly a program that has its challenges. As you say, everybody wants more. So let's figure out how we can work together to get that done, because that's what this program does. Aye.
You, Daly?
Thank you, everyone, for your hard work and for being here today. And to Commissioner Fritz, this definitely is one of the funnest and most heartwarming reports we get to listen to. You know, not everything we do here is quite this fun and exciting, but it's absolutely vital to our mission. Aye. All right. Carla, can you call the next item?
Item 744, establish the Special Appropriations Committee and outlines the review process for awarding one-time special appropriations grants.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Craig Haynes, and I'm an analyst in the Office of Management and Finance Grants Management Division. Today, I'm here to introduce the resolution to establish the Special Appropriations Committee and outline the review process for awarding the one-time special appropriation grants in the amount of $1 million for fiscal year 2017 to 2018. The Special Appropriations Committee will be comprised of a staff representative from the mayors and each council office, and they will be tasked with reviewing the grant applications and making recommendations of awards. Prospective applicants will apply for funding under the following areas: expanding opportunities for youth, community-based arts and culture, expanding economic opportunity for Portlanders, and community health. The application process opens July 3rd, 2017. Grant application template will be available on Portland Online, Office of Management and Finance, Bureau of Revenue and Financial Services, Special Appropriations website. A link to the application should also be, or will also be, available on each commissioner's webpage. Application closes on August 15th, 2017. Commencing August 23rd, 2017, the committee begins reviewing the applications. On September 27th, the Special Appropriations Committee will submit a report to Council with recommendations for funding the highest ranked applications for the fiscal year 17-18 competitive one-time grants, and the Council will vote on these recommendations. Starting September 29th, applicants will be notified that they have received a grant. A list of the requirements to have them set up as vendors in the city system and to establish the grants in SAP will also be sent to the new applicants. That concludes my presentation. I'll try my best to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, just a couple of comments to salt the discussion, and thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
I have the honor of serving as the council liaison to the Regional Arts and Culture Council. So what I'm about to say may sound counterintuitive, but we have established as one of the criteria community-based arts and culture. Let me just express a concern that I have with this category. It is my belief that this is intended to capture unique, innovative applications that otherwise would not be competing through the normal process that the Regional Arts and Culture Council has set up. It has been my suspicion that, that we have, in effect, sent a signal that people can get two bites of the apple by seeking money through the formal grant process at RAC and then using us as a backup. I think that would be the wrong signal. Okay. We give RAC a lot of money, and we ask them to serve on our behalf as the screening committee to make very difficult decisions among very worthy applications for operating support and the like. And the idea that one can bypass that system and get a commissioner or two to support an application that otherwise should be pending before RAC, I think is a mistake. That said, I believe that through our process, what we can encourage is the kind of applications that may not traditionally fit within RAC's guidelines. Last year, the council appropriated a modest amount of money to the Confluence Project, which is an effort to recognize Native American history up and down the Columbia. Doesn't quite fit, and we were approached in our position as a sovereign. That is, the nonprofit is seeking to have all the governments along the Columbia that have indirectly or benefited from the destruction of tribal fishing grounds, the building of dams to participate. That doesn't quite fit within the traditional guidelines, and I thought that was one of the reasons we were collectively moved to fund it as the city of Portland backing it. I also think from time to time there'll be a special request from a community-based arts organization that is doing capital fundraising to preserve a facility that otherwise would be lost. Our friends at Milagro Theater are trying to build an endowment to maintain a particularly culturally competent programming in their site. To me, that's different. But I just want to put down a marker, and I don't know how we might be able to recognize this through the literature, but I don't want us to give the impression that you can opt out of the RAC system and put an operating grant in. But we do welcome unique and innovative requests for funding around the arts. So it's a delicate balance, but I just offer that for your consideration.
If I may address your concern, I think that could be addressed in the application process. we could ask, are you receiving any funding from any other organization within the city of Portland? And if they say we're getting funding from RAC, then maybe their application
And if
will
I
not
could
be
tweak
considered.
that, are you receiving public funding
Yes.
from any of these local organizations? And that would be the Oregon Cultural Trust, the Arts Commission, RAC, the County Arts Commission, or have you submitted a request for funding?
Exactly.
That way, at least we can cross-reference. And again, I'm the Arts Commissioner. I will always vote for robust funding for these things. But I don't want people getting just into the habit of seeking two bites of the apple and in effect bypassing the competitive process that RAC administers.
I am in agreement with you, Commissioner Fish.
Yes. I appreciate you raising that concern, and I do agree not only in the application information, but also in the direction that we give to the participants on the committee.
Yes.
For myself, one of the great things about this program that Mayor Hales started is that it's not who knows 2 or 3 commissioners and who can get their funding, which previously was how things went through the regular budget process. Rather, it's each of us has a delegate, and those delegates perhaps would receive that same advice.
Yes.
That although people are free to apply, the people who are voting on the committee should bear that in mind, that if they have applied, because I think sometimes too, organizations might be wanting, say, $100,000 and apply for 50 one place and 50 another.
Yes.
They really need to look at, as Commissioner Fish said, the impacts, and maybe that's appropriate if it's a big enough project. Last year, the committee chose to limit individual funds to $100,000, and many were less. What we did find, though, was we had many more applications than we had funds available. The really great thing about this, and why I'm glad this is on the regular agenda and with your presentation, is to get the information out to people. The applications will be solicited, and that there will be a clear and objective public process in order to be able to select, culminating in an appearance in a hearing at council, that anybody who feels like they didn't get a fair shake can still come and talk to the final decision makers.
So can I comment on something that you said? You said we received lots of applications last time around. Are you thinking of increasing the one-time funding from $1 million to $2 million?
That would have been nice. In fact, I'm not entirely clear whether we might already have used some of this year's funding for the Portland,
$350,000.
for Portland United Against Hate, right?
Yes,
So
set aside for
$350
yes.
has been allocated for that program.
Right, so then we're down to $650. And that is obviously less than $1 million. The challenge is we as a city council have to balance all of the things we're asked to do for the entire budget. And so I think there's a challenge in figuring out how much should be more in this other process versus what we consider bearing in mind all the other factors that we have to consider, like police, fire, and other things. So we came to the determination that $1 million minus the Portland United Against Hate money was the correct number for this year.
Okay.
It could be more or less next year, but I do think this is the right process for it.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for that discussion. I think I largely agree with you. My office is digging into the public budgeting process and what that would look like, and looking at opportunities as we move forward to implement that, and I think this could be one of them. And I'm looking forward to spreading the word in my community, which is kind of more grassroots arts and culture community, about this, because I know there are hundreds of individuals in small organizations that may not qualify for RAC funding, or may experience too many barriers to that process, who we might want to support.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Carla, is there any public testimony?
Yes, we have one person signed up, Shedrick Wilkins.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Cedric Wilkins, and I would like to use this appropriation committee because I'm kind of a crusade to highlight the solar panels on Montgomery Park with some sort of artistic sign or something, at least. Maybe that is powered by LEDs at night or something. Let people decide what to put on it. I'd like to get a reputation for solar energy for the simple fact that I just read in the Oregonian that the Oregon State Director of Energy was fired because he stole $300,000. And I'm certainly not going to steal $300,000 of the state money, but I need a reputation in alternative energy. And I think Portland has a good opportunity if someday, I remember living through the 1979 oil embargo. Portland could actually, because of light rail trolleys, function in an oil embargo and not blame other countries for embargoing the oil. And I remember those times that people wanted to go to war with Iran or the Middle East. I'm not into that, and it makes people hate other people. For Portland, if there is an oil embargo, and there will be in the future, we should still be able to function. And part of that is using alternative energy for heat and electricity, and storing it as well. So one of my things is, I heard this guy who got fired, he had a relationship with the Army. I'm an Army veteran, and I have a degree in electrical engineering, and I'll find out if he did.
Thank you. Carla, could you please call the next item?
No, this is a resolution,
Oh, sorry.
so we get a chance to vote.
Oh, gosh, I was just jumping ahead. Okay, let's back up. So is there a motion to move this item?
It's a resolution.
It's a resolution.
Okay, so do we
Vote
just
on
vote on it? Oh, okay, great. Carla, can you please call the roll?
Fish?
I am very supportive of this new process, and I think it worked really well last year. And I'm proud of where the committee landed. And if it was within my power, we would add additional resources to this worthy program. And thanks to Jamie Dunphy, who serves as my liaison on this and is very diligent in the work that he does. Aye.
Fritz?
I also am very pleased that we're having this more clear and objective way of doing things. Last year, my Chief of Staff, Tim Crail, was the delegate to this. We're going to give somebody else a turn this year, Christina Nieves, so that we all can experience the challenges that council has when we're asked to fund so many things and don't have infinite resources. I do appreciate the work that's been done, and I look forward to hearing about the applications, because that's the way it happens. People get their applications in. Last year, the applications had to be submitted by August 15th, and then there were notification of acceptance by September 21st. So it's fairly short order to get the word out to the community to look and get the application and send it in. And then we do try to get the money out as quickly as possible, because we know that there's good things that need to be funded in the community. Aye.
Udaley?
Thank you, and aye. Carla, can you call the next item?
Item 745, authorize the city attorney to appear as amicus curiae supporting gender equality on behalf of the city of Portland. And Madam President, if I can add that this may be Chief Deputy City Attorney Harry Auerbach's last appearance in front of council.
So I've heard. All right, well, before we get started, does anyone
Madam President,
want to
if
say
I could,
something? Yes.
Carla, would you like to say a few words first?
Just real quick, thank you, Commissioner, that in Harry's 35 years, he's getting embarrassed, and 35 years with the city, Harry used to sit in that chair over there for us many times. He's appeared in front of council hundreds of times. And Harry, you're going to really be missed, and I appreciate working with you. Thank you, Harry.
Well, that's the highest praise I can think of. Carla, you have sat in that chair for 17 years?
Just about, yeah.
So you have overlapped about half of Harry's career. I just celebrated a milestone of sorts, my 9th year on the council, so we've overlapped 9 of his 35 years. And this is Harry's last day on Friday. I would have been there last night, except I was sent home sick in the afternoon, so I apologize that I missed it. I believe, and I have 9 years of experience to back this up, that we at the City of Portland have the best law firm in the city. And I would have said the best law firm in the state, but I don't want to get sideways with our Attorney General. But we have an extraordinary group of lawyers who work very hard and who get great results for the people. And it's just a pleasure as a recovering lawyer myself to work with so much talent. A couple of things come to mind when I think of Harry. One is he's a terrific troubleshooter. He's someone who digs into the details and who identifies problems very, very carefully and clearly. He has good judgment. You can be the best lawyer in the world, but if you don't have good judgment and you don't share that judgment with your client, you're not doing much. And we have always found that the legal advice was sound and often very creative. Another unheralded part of Harry's personality is his fearlessness in dealing with his clients, in telling them to slow down and get it right. And that sometimes produces frustration for some of us who are in a hurry. But as a result of that approach, he's probably saved the city a ton of money and made sure we got it right. When I think about the totality of my interactions with Harry Auerbach, and they have been many through the bureaus I've had the honor of leading, I simply come down to one way of thinking about his service. I believe Harry is the model of a lawyer in public service. And I think the city has been exceptionally lucky to have 35 years of service from Harry, and you will be greatly missed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you. If I may have a moment of personal privilege.
Yes.
Thank you. It has been a true honor and privilege to work for you all and your predecessors and the people of the city of Portland. I mentioned this the other night. I think you all get a really bad rap. In my experience, I've worked with thousands of people over the last 35 years. And 201, my experience of people who work for the city of Portland is everybody from the elected officials to everybody on staff in this building, in the Portland building, and throughout the city, comes to work every day for the purpose of helping to make their community a better place to live. It has been my great honor to be a part of that. I've tried always to remember that we work for the people, and our ultimate responsibility is to take care of their money and to provide them things that enrich their lives. Thank you for allowing me to be part of that. In particular, Commissioner, my role model for that was Charles Jordan, who I worked with when he was Director of Parks for 13 years. And I'm forever grateful to you, Commissioner Fish, for allowing me to serve on the committee that chose University Park Community Center to be renamed in his honor. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Harry. It was certainly one of the high points of our service together at that event.
Having said that, I'm here today actually for a different thing, and that is to ask for your authorization to allow us to participate as amicus curiae in a case supporting a challenge to the refusal of the Department of Veterans Affairs to cover gender reassignment surgery as for transgendered members of the military. And I think it's particularly fitting that my last appearance before you is on an item such as this, because it reinforces the city's commitment to true equality for all and to basic human dignity for all. And I couldn't think of anything I'd rather spend my time doing than defending that principle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We move to public testimony.
No one signed up.
All right. So, thank you, Harry.
Thank you,
I hardly
Commissioner.
knew you, but it's been a pleasure to work with you in
And with you.
in our few interactions, and I'm pleased to vote aye on this. Oh, actually, we can't. I have to ask Carla to call the roll, I suppose.
Fish.
Harry, just one other point. You mentioned the renaming of the University Park Community Center in honor of Charles Jordan. Michelle Harper joined us on that committee.
Yes.
It was one of the highest functioning committees I've ever been a part of. And one of the joys of that was that Charles Jordan got to be present and got to share in the tribute and the celebration.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we do these namings, well, by tradition, actually, we do renamings after someone is no longer with us. And we made an exception, and that made it especially poignant that he and his family were there to accept the recognition and love of the community. Absolutely. So thank you. I'm very proud to support this resolution and disappointed that the VA currently refuses to cover gender confirmation surgery by policy. I do note that the administration just passed through a reform, so-called, of the VA, which allows them to strip certain people of their protected rights as employees. Seems like we're just going the wrong way. In passing this resolution today, though, we follow in the footsteps of some other actions the council has taken that I'm very proud of. Under Mayor Adams, and Commissioner Fritz will remember this, the council voted to expand health care coverage for transgender individuals, and that was an important step. And in last year's special appropriation process, the committee appropriated $100,000 for Prism Health, which is the first dedicated LGBTQ plus healthcare center in the state of Oregon. I ran into the executive director the other day and asked him what would happen with the repeal and destruction of the Affordable Care Act. He said it would be bad news, but fortunately there is other dedicated funding through the Ryan White funding process and others that they can rely on. But one part of the attack on the Affordable Care Act is that it will have a devastating impact on people living with HIV/AIDS. This, I think, is an important step, and I'm very proud that in the last 6 months the council has voted to join as amicus curiae on a number of important issues facing our community, including the Muslim travel ban and other actions taken by this administration. Again, thank you, Harry, for your service, and I'm proud to vote aye.
Fritz.
On this issue, to start with, I agree, Commissioner Fish, that having gender confirmation health benefits in the city's plan was something that was one of the best things we did with Mayor Adams, and it was over the objections, actually, at the time of the Labour Management Benefit Committee, who I hope now is more informed on the issue, as I am indeed too. And so it is fitting that this is your last time in council to be pushing it again. I met yesterday with some members of the Portland Resistance and with the Portland Police and the Mayor's office to talk about protests, and we all agreed that we do need to protest in as many ways as we need to, and to keep people safe while we're doing that. So this is a way that we, the City Council and the City Attorney's Office, can do our part in pushing back and saying, this is not who we want to be. And so thank you for that. Personally, I have really enjoyed working with you. I wish you and Jerry all the best in retirement. I want to thank Commissioner Fish and President Udaley for setting up that Carla got to say her tribute. It's the first time I've been watching City Council for nearly as long, probably longer than you've been Council Clerk. In fact, yes. Yeah. And that's the first time that you've been able to share your views. And so I appreciate that. We should do that more often. You should feel free to pass us notes when we miss something. So that's, again, an affirmation of your statement. Everybody's trying to do the right thing here in the City of Portland. We all have our role, and you have certainly played your part as well as it could be done. Aye.
Thank you.
Udaley.
Well, as the political newcomer, I have a lot to learn, and that includes how to pronounce much of the legal jargon that crosses my desk. And sometimes there isn't just one way to say something, but in your honor, I will forever say amicus curiae. I'm glad to have that settled. There was a little debate among my staff, and I'm also proud to support this resolution. Aye.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah.
And thank you, Commissioner, by the way, for your kind remarks last night. I truly appreciate that.
Thank you. I also wanted to say, Harry, that one of the other things I've enjoyed about learning from you in my office is when I ask a question, often you sit back and go, that's really interesting. And then you lay out, and I can see your thought process as well. You could do this, and these are the risks. And so, again, thank you for teaching me things.
Thank you.
Carla, please call the next item.
Item 746, approve and terminate limited tax exemptions for properties under the Homebuyer Opportunity Limited Tax Exemption Program.
Welcome.
Good morning, members of council. I'm here for Andrea Mathiasen, the manager of our single-family program, on this issue. Traditionally, this is on consent. I think the presentation's for the next
Could you
one.
just put your name into the record to start with?
Oh, Matthew Shaw with the Portland Housing Bureau, thank you. So traditionally, these resolutions are heard on consent, but given that we have 2 members of council absent and that we have some statutory timelines that we need to meet, it's here before you today. For folks who are unfamiliar, the Homebuyer Opportunity Limited Tax Exemption Program is a tax exemption program authorized under state law, which the City of Portland and Multnomah County have agreed to have and is operated through the Portland Housing Bureau. The tax exemption is a tax exemption on single-family homes, new construction, for families earning below 100% of the area median income, and it's a 10-year property tax exemption. And so throughout the year, there's a cap on the number of applications the city can consider, which is 100 per year, not including those authorized through nonprofit ownership. And
Is that 100 units or 100 developments?
100 single-family homes, so 100
Oh, okay,
units, yeah.
single-family homes, thanks.
So, and then throughout the year, to meet statutory timelines, these resolutions are regularly before council to both approve new authorizations as well as to rescind authorizations for instances where the authorization no longer meets either the state statute or our local code and administrative rule. So before you today, you have 12 new authorizations and the rescission of 20 previous authorizations for the Holte program.
Colleagues, just 2 comments on this. When Commissioner Fritz and I joined the council, there were 2 standing objections to the tax abatements or tax break programs for development in our community. One was a criticism that there was inadequate public oversight of the program, not enough transparency. And the second was that there wasn't enough public benefit. A lot of work has gone into scrubbing these programs to tighten the return to the public and to put more sunlight on them to ensure that they're operating properly. In fact, originally, this was a function performed by the Portland Development Commission. With the creation of the new Portland Housing Bureau, when we consolidated all the programs and funding under one roof here at the city, the Portland Housing Bureau took the responsibility for delivering this report. And for the first time, we had an annual report in which we were told what properties or programs no longer qualified and therefore were kicked off the program, how much money that brought back in previously foregone revenue and the like. I think that work has led to this day where we're about to have this item discussed and debated at council and no one is here to object. And it tells us a lot about sharpening the connection to all of our programs to clear public benefit, in this case expanding the supply of affordable homes, and making sure that there's adequate oversight so that people that don't qualify for the program don't get to take advantage of the program. And I compliment the Housing Bureau for the role they have played in building more public trust for these kinds of programs.
I see that there's 39 application slots still available. What kind of outreach do we do to landlords to let them know about this program?
So this is one of the programs that we administer directly at the Housing Bureau, but we outreach to primarily construction and development professionals because it's traditionally the folks that are building the homes that can choose to sell below the price point and try and then identify potential buyers below the income threshold. So if you're thinking about eligibility, there's really 2 factors. One is getting somebody building a home that's not a nonprofit, because the nonprofit will own it and it'll already be exempt through other tax exemption programs. But so you have to identify the builder that's willing to sell below the price point, which currently is $350,000, and then work with them, traditionally connecting them to community nonprofits, to identify the home buyers who also fall below the income threshold, which is 100% of the area median income. So the Bureau staff work directly not only with professionals in the construction industry, but then our community nonprofit partners to connect families to those houses once they're built.
Okay. Any other questions for Matt? All right, Carla, do we have any public testimony?
No one signed up.
All right, and this is a resolution. So Carla, can you please call the roll?
Fish?
Thank you, Matt. You did an admirable job stepping in for the lead program person at the Bureau. And again, thank you for the enhanced transparency that you and the Bureau have brought to this program. Aye.
Fritz?
Well, thanks, Commissioner Fish, for reminding us of some of the history of this. And I do appreciate the Housing Bureau's diligence in making sure that people remain eligible. And I appreciate President Udaley's comment that it would be nice if everybody knew about this opportunity, and also, given your answer, if more developers would be thinking of how can I make this more affordable for a potential buyer. So thank you. Aye.
Udaley?
Thank you, Matt. Aye. Carla, can you call the next item?
Item 747, direct the Portland Housing Bureau to adopt medium income and maximum monthly rent guidelines.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Thank you. For the record, Matthew Schaubold with the Housing Bureau. So this is the first of really a number of what have traditionally been administrative policies that will be coming to council to officially adopt them as Portland policy documents, to formalize some administrative policies. And the impetus for this is coming from a few places, in part upon guidance from the City Attorney's Office, given the Bureau's new role in some mandatory programs for affordability, mandatory inclusionary housing being one, potential further programs around renter-owner services or renter-owner regulatory requirements. And then separate from that, there have been some audits, both at the federal and local level, that have provided guidance that it would be good for the Bureau to formalize its administrative policies as official city policies. And so this is the first one, which is our area median income and maximum rent guidelines. And given that we're moving this as a policy document, pardon me, I wanted to give just a little bit of a primer for folks that were unfamiliar with the terminology or unfamiliar with the guidelines themselves. So this policy does essentially two things. And one is to set the maximum household income for eligibility for programs, City Housing Bureau programs. So as we just talked about with the Holte program, that's 100% of the area median income, but we have programs both on the rental side and the home ownership side, as well as home repair for households at 30% AMI, 50% AMI, 60% AMI, so throughout the income threshold. And this policy formalizes the table. You'll see in the policy document, there's a grid of median incomes by household size, and that is what determines eligibility for our programs. And then the second thing that it does is it establishes for the rental portfolio what the maximum rents are that can be charged in the unit based on the AMI that they're regulated at. So if they're regulated at a 30% AMI level or an 80% AMI level, it then imputes what the maximum rents would be for our various rental housing programs. So AMI is it's a calculation, it's a metropolitan area figure. It is actually calculated by HUD. It uses Census Bureau data from the American Community Survey, and it's a methodology that combines both 5-year estimates as well as 1-year data with some attempts by the federal government to incorporate an inflation factor, given the time lag of the data. And every year, this is published by HUD for every metropolitan statistical area in the country. This year, it was a little bit late, but it has been published. And then the Bureau provides notice to all of the providers of regulated housing that they have to adjust not only their eligibility for the units, but the rents that are in the units themselves. Just a little bit more detail. Area median income, it is the midpoint, so it is the median income in the city at which more than half the households will make more and half the households will earn less. Again, it can be a little bit complicated because it does vary based on household size, and there is some There are some methodological elements that the Department of Housing and Urban Development incorporates to try and address outliers, particularly for rather large households. But again, it's calculated every year, and it's what establishes our program eligibility throughout the city. Just a quick note, because I think council is probably hearing the term area median income as well as median family income, and the two are really synonymous. The median family income has been a local term that the city of Portland has used for quite some time, and some other jurisdictions in Oregon. Area median income is kind of the national standard, and so the Bureau is slowly changing the terminology to align with the national standard of area median income. It's more of a process than one would expect, though, given the volume of code and policy and regulatory documents that need to be modified. So it's a slow transition over time, but we're moving toward the use of the term area median income. And then as far as the maximum rent schedule, you also find in the policy document a maximum rent schedule. And the maximum rent schedule is it's imputed 30% of cost given a particular income in the AMI grid. So, and it is inclusive of a utility allowance. So you will see our utility allowance policy coming before you to formalize that from an administrative policy to a Portland policy document. But again, so if you're looking at this chart here and the maximum rent allowable in a 60% unit for with 2 bedrooms being $1,009 per month, the provider of that regulated unit would have to lower the rent in order to allow for a utility allowance. So the rent that the household is actually paying plus a utility allowance cannot exceed $1,009 per month. So that's how the rent works. And again, it's a simple calculation. We use the national standard, which is 30% of the income within the AMI table for a given AMI column and household size.
Matthew, I have a question. And by the way, I wish, this is an area where I think we all wish we weren't bound by the jargon of housing, because it does not invite people in. You use these kinds of acronyms, people's eyes glaze over. And I wish we had a different language, but every bureau deals with this.
Yeah.
A question I have is in updating these charts and maximum rents and allowable income, are we also simultaneously with developments like the Ellington that were purchased with bond money, working to ensure that people whose income goes above the guidelines are grandfathered so they're not evicted? I think it would be very odd if the city's in the business of acquiring properties to preserve affordable housing, then displacing people. So can you give us an update on that?
Sure. So that's another policy that you'll see in the months to come. The Bureau has an administrative policy called Incomes Rising in Place. And the essence of it is we don't want to kick people out who happen to move in at a dollar amount and then they make $1 more. And so depending on the source of funds, whether it's federal funds or local funds, and depending on, or potentially mandatory inclusionary housing units or tax credits, there's a different income rising in place policy. But in general, the Bureau tries to allow an income to rise in place to either the next threshold of an AMI category. So if they're in a 30% unit, there'll be a rising in place policy to a 50 or a 60% AMI level, or potentially an 80%, depending on the source. But we will certainly be giving a full detailed presentation on that policy and all of the different nuances given the funding source.
Yeah, and just previewing my concern on this, I'm talking specifically about properties that we acquire with
Correct.
our resources. To me, there's a difference between someone who is renting without subsidy, who may no longer be eligible, and someone who is renting in that development subject to some subsidy program, federal, state, local, whatever. And I would hope that those particular individuals are red circled and that we look very closely at ensuring that they're not at risk of eviction.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure I understand, for the median income guidelines, what is the criteria? That's a HUD. Those are HUD numbers.
Correct.
But for the maximum monthly rent guidelines, is that also HUD, or we're using our own?
I mean, it's HUD, but we impute that by just applying a 30% factor
Yeah.
to the income over, the monthly income over a year.
Yeah.
So,
I think we were struggling a little bit looking at the monthly rent schedule that, because some of these will be privately owned homes or units that we're subsidizing the renter,
That's
right?
correct.
It's just striking that balance between not encouraging landlords to charge this maximum amount that they can get because we've set it, and not making it almost impossible for renters to find housing in that range. So, any thoughts on that?
You know, as far as our providers, I think you'll find that they each operate differently based on, I guess, their organizational values and mission and just their own financial books, I suppose. And some of our providers don't always reach the cap. And perhaps they've got a 60% unit, 60% regulated one-bedroom unit, and they don't reach the $784 because they've had someone in there for 5 or 10 years, and that person has been paying $625 maybe. And they try and balance that with, from a mission standpoint, with their ability to get enough cash flow to operate the building.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I would anticipate that under the mandatory inclusionary housing program, given that that's a mandate through the zoning code, that the providers of those regulated units would be right up at the cap.
Yeah.
So in general, I think the guidance I would offer council is, to the extent that for a particular program, there is a desire to encourage a deeper level of affordability, I would recommend not changing the rent calculation, but modifying the program to have a lower AMI threshold for eligibility. That's probably a more administratively, I'll say administratively less burdensome way to get at a deeper level of affordability, rather than having different because we would have to administer different rent calculations.
Sure.
Internally.
Thanks. That's really helpful. Just wanting to understand what this actually looks like in the real world.
Yes.
Off the page. Thank you.
May I answer?
Yeah.
Thanks. So I just have some questions about the Exhibit A, number 6, the amendments to policy.
Yes.
And it says the Director of the Portland Housing Bureau or designee shall have authority to make changes to this Portland policy document as is necessary to meet current program requirements throughout the year. How often does the calculation of area median income come out?
Once per year.
Once a year. And when is that?
Usually it's around February or March. It was a little bit later this year, we think, because of the transition at the federal level. This year it was around April, and then we provided notice in May.
And so when it comes out, you do that. And then the second part of that says this policy will be reviewed annually.
Mm-hmm.
Will the adjustments come back to council annually?
We can certainly present on them, given the language. The intent was to run a process similar to an administrative rulemaking process. If you recall, a few months ago, we had presented the Bureau adopting a formal administrative rulemaking process in order to notify the public that there would be a change.
So I think there's benefit in bringing it to council. You know, the questions of my colleagues who know far much more about this than I do, presumably are also reflecting interest in the community. So do we need to add that to the policy or to the ordinance, to say that a report would come to council every year?
Sure, I think that would be appropriate.
But as I say, you colleagues who know more about this, does the affirmation of the number need to come back or just a report about it?
You know, I don't know the answer. To me, this feels a little bit like if it ain't broke, why fix it? Because we've been doing this on a regular basis, setting these numbers, and there's a lot of community oversight. I would say get the level of reporting you want, but I want to be clear about what the benefit is.
Yeah, because the number's the number, whatever HUD says, right?
Correct.
So there's no there's no discretion in that.
Correct. And, we can, in the State of Housing report, we do publish some of the AMI figures, but we can add something that publishes the full schedule each year
Yeah.
so that the readers of that report on an annual basis can see what both the maximum income.
I think that would be, Commissioner Fritz, that would be a great, and that report keeps getting more comprehensive, so I would say adding that to the report, and also ensuring that the PHAC, the oversight body of the Housing Bureau, reviews these numbers annually, I think would be an addition, would be a.
Yeah, so if you could make sure that that is included in the presentation on the housing report
Sure thing.
to council, because I don't routinely check the Housing Bureau's website on a daily basis, and would appreciate just, as I say, having it open for the public who also may or may not go to that website. So thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Carla, is there any public testimony?
Nope, no one signed up.
And,
It's a non-emergency.
all right, this is a non-emergency. It's moved to a second reading.
Oh, by the way, congratulations to Shannon Callahan. I'm sorry Dan's not here, but there's been an announcement that she'll be leaving Dan's office and joining the Housing Bureau as a deputy director, a co-deputy director.
Yes.
And with a primary responsibility in implementing and overseeing the housing bond. As a former housing commissioner who worked very closely with Dan's office when he had the Bureau, I just want to call out Shannon's superb work on behalf of the city. Very detail-focused, very creative in her thinking, and highly regarded in the community. I know this is a big loss for Dan's office, and his chief of staff actually said that, but I think it's a big win for the Bureau. And she'll now be in a position where she can, I think, even have a bigger impact. So I think that's a terrific addition.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carla, could you call item 748?
Authorize a competitive solicitation and price agreements for furnishing sewer improvements for non-conforming sewer conversions, project number E08748 for an estimated $3 million annually.
Madam President, Scott Gibson is here today to walk us through this ordinance. The Bureau of Environmental Services has a non-conforming sewer conversion program to promote efficient urban development while also protecting public health and the environment. In an effort to apply uniform sewer connection standards for developed and developing properties, BES constructs sanitary sewer extensions to properties that are currently served by non-conforming sewer connections. We have Matthew Hickey from the Bureau of Environmental Services here to further describe the purposes of the ordinance, and of course, he's joined by Scott Gibson. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning, Madam President, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Scott Gibson. With me here today is Matthew Hickey, and Matt Hickey runs our non-conforming sewer program at BES. BES needs to construct sanitary sewer extensions and branches directly to properties that are currently served by non-conforming sewer connections in accordance with the city code. The ordinance authorizes BES to use a competitive solicitation process in order to obtain the most responsible and responsive offers for price agreements for this work. The estimated cost is $3 million annually. These are typically in the range of $100,000 to $200,000 per task order. BES completes the design plans, specifications, as well as managing the construction, while the work is performed by the contractors. These price agreements will be competitively bid to the Prime Contractor Development Program. The primary goal of this program is to increase disadvantaged minority and women prime contractors' participation in city public improvement projects, and the PCDP is a part of the social equity contracting strategy for the city. We had a little bit of a snafu. I think our presentation didn't make it over here this morning, so we're going to audible, and I'm going to have Matt walk you through some of the basics of his program and answer any questions about the projects.
Thank you, Scott. And again, I'm Matt Hickey. I'm a senior engineer with BES in the Systems Development Group. And since 2008, I've been the lead engineer on what's called the Non-Conforming Sewer Program. you may know the general scope of that is when two properties may share a sewer system, or a property may have, in fact, a private sewer line in the right-of-way. So this is a difficult situation for property owners. I've given you a simple example of a party sewer on the left. Property B doesn't have a sewer in front of them. Historically, none was ever built. They had taken the route through property A, and property A now in 2017 would like to improve their property, and that route of service is no longer viable. So beginning in 2008, we recognized that the city needed to step up and provide a program to do some sewer extensions on behalf of property owners such as these, and that's what our focus is. So the magic green arrow simply means that we're going to convert the situation to each property then having its own branch to a sewer main. So that's the focus of my work. We're here today to talk about one specific route of getting that work done, and that's through the use of on-call contracts for building the public sewer extensions. Each time one of these would come up, we initially tried to do the standard bid project, and oftentimes that would run us very close to a time frame that made further development or fixing emergencies very tight. So we came up with a way to do price agreements with various contractors in the Prime Contractor Development Program and its predecessor, so that we would have agreed upon prices, and we would just have to develop the technical designs that they could implement. We would have a basis for knowing what that would cost, and we could move forward quickly. So the bottom line is to keep existing customers in service, and that's what we do. Driven by heavily development climate right now and failing private sewers, we often are able to meet the 6-month deadline that one property can impose upon another. So I have a couple examples for you of projects that we recently completed this half of the year. The first one is the La Happy Restaurant on Northwest 16th Avenue. It's a small restaurant, and we came upon them with notice of a demolition of about a quarter block area for new development. It was found that their sewer crossed into the developing area and then, in fact, went out in the street into an old clay line, which was also private and went 150 feet. So that was not a sustainable scenario, and the neighbor California developer has been very good to work with. They understood that we couldn't make it happen this week, but we needed the 6 months, and so they followed all our directions in terms of notifying the property owner of the restaurant. This needed to be done. There were also a need to grant them a small easement because the developments are property line to property line there, so they in fact did grant an easement, and that's going to allow for us to get them connected and remain in service as a viable business. So that's a success story.
Do the businesses bear the cost of these improvements?
So the business being served pays what's called a conversion charge that gets set each year. And then in addition to that, they have to have private plumbing as well. So they do bear a portion of the cost, but it's pretty heavily subsidized.
Commissioner, just one way of thinking about it is we cover the main sewer lines that are underneath the public rights-of-way, and it is the responsibility of the business or the homeowner to connect to the sewer.
Got it.
Up to their property line.
Thank you. On the next slide, I titled Northeast 24th Avenue, a failed private line in the right-of-way. This is one of the more shocking historic type of situations for folks that they feel just amazed that there are private sewer lines under the streets that were historically built. And so this is an example of 4 properties, a couple of which were having flow problems, and gave us a call, and we let them know that this would require a public sewer extension and a conversion and those things. So we put in roughly a little over 200 feet of mainline pipe and 4 services. We work closely with the homeowners to connect those services live so that they didn't have additional plumbing costs. It's also a street that was very busy. We also use a trenchless technology on the laterals to limit the amount of paving done and sidewalk restoration required. So we just finished that up in March, and was a very successful project.
Do we have an idea of where all these things are happening around the city, or do they just emerge when sewage starts backing up?
Yes. Well, we have what's called, I call it a measle diagram now. We went ahead and labeled each property that we suspect that could be in this situation. And so if you can imagine, they just dot the landscape. And so this is an equity-based program, and I've covered every neighborhood, every quadrant in town several times over already. So they are very common in the older combined sewer neighborhoods of southeast, northeast, and north, but they
Yes,
stretch.
so Matt has a proactive approach, but many of them are reactive. Real estate agents are recommending to home buyers that they have their sewer inspected before, and oftentimes that is when the current owner becomes aware that their sewer is non-conforming and there's an issue. And so it has negative impacts on development, redevelopment, property sales. So the structure that Matt has set up with these in-place construction contracts and ability to move relatively quickly to a resolution is what we're here in support of today.
The next slide is just a review of the last contracts we had, fiscal year 16 and 17, utilizing the Prime Contractor Development Program. We had 2 WBE firms and 2 emerging small business firms that were the low bidders. Those contract values totaled about $500,000 a year maximum. And so with I had an overall budget of $2 million, I got 4 contracts. And so this is their utilization, and over 20 projects completed in the 2 years. And their work order amount averages are there. It's not a strict, you're up first, you're up next, you're up third, you're up fourth. There just happened to be so much work that it was able to be spread out among them. It meets their goals of when they're available because they all carry a busy workload for small firms. So, but most of them were utilized at least 80 to 90%. So, very busy. In closing, the overall would be to establish a first year contract with the ability to re-up it 2 more years, so a total of 3 years. If approved, I would move to work with purchasing in detail starting next month. Initially, we would target 4 contracts from the Prime Contractor Development Program, Tier 3 and Tier 4. Tier 4 is the newer tier, goes up to $1 million annually per contract, and they are required to provide oversight and guidance for the lower tier of contractors. This has been used over the last 6 years very successfully, and we're looking to have a budget move to up to $3 million a year annually.
Great. Carla, is there any public testimony?
And no one signed up.
Colleagues, any discussion? Well, I would just like to thank you for your presentation, and I enjoy learning something new every day. And today, it was the term party sewer. So,
Very good.
Not what you might think, eh?
No, I don't want to think about it too hard.
It really is no party.
Yeah. So this is a first reading, and we'll move it to second reading. Carla, could you call the next item?
Item 749, authorize a site access agreement with the Metropolitan Exposition Recreation Commission for the Force Avenue Pump Station remodel, project number E10611.
All right. It's a second reading, so Carla, could you please call the roll?
Fish.
Here, aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye. Carla, could you please call the next item?
750, authorize intergovernmental agreement with Oregon State University in the amount of $10,178 for the Cascadia subduction zone at Bull Run Watershed Project.
Commissioner Fish?
Teresa Elliott, she was here a second ago. Okay, so why don't you come forward, and I'll just do the introductory remarks. Colleagues, the Portland Water Bureau provides water to approximately 960,000 people, 1/4 of the population of Oregon. The Water Bureau strives to mitigate the hazards for Oregonians before, during, and after a Cascadia megaquake event. A significant amount of research has gone into mapping prehistoric landslides around the Bull Run watershed. Nonetheless, little is known about underwater landslides within the lake. This agreement would authorize the Water Bureau to work collaboratively with Oregon State University to conduct an investigation into two specific areas. First, the shaking levels at Bull Run Lake during prehistoric earthquakes. I'll be interested in learning more about that. And second, the present-day vulnerabilities of the Bull Run Lake and of its greater watershed to a megaquake event. And I'll turn it over to the Chief Engineer of the Water Bureau, Teresa Elliott.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Teresa Elliott, Chief Engineer, Portland Water Bureau, and with me is Tim Collins, Geotechnical Engineer with the Water Bureau as well. This is it's an extension of it's a new agreement, but it's an extension of some study work that we've been doing with Oregon State University to figure out what our vulnerabilities are within the watershed. So in 2015, we did a study and looked to see how frequent earthquakes are. We know we have them. We took core samples and are now looking to have a new contract or a new intergovernmental agreement with them to figure out what the carbon date those and try and relate those back to the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. It's a small contract, $10,000, $10,178 specifically, and it should be, all of the work will be done this fiscal year. The carbon dating this summer and the report by winter, and we're here to answer any of your questions.
I have a question. Commissioner Udaly, have you ever participated in the Bull Run Watershed Tour?
I unfortunately have not had an opportunity to do that, but I would love to.
Commissioner Fritz, you've taken that tour.
I have, and unfortunately, my theory is that everybody should do it just once. I know that you do it
Everyone
often.
should do it once.
Yeah, everyone should do it once, and it's not a tourist destination. It's definitely for the purpose of protecting the watershed. So yes, I would definitely encourage you to avail yourself of that opportunity.
When you and whoever you want to invite are ready, let us know, and we'd love to host you on that trip. It is, it's one of the, I've done it twice now, once as a guest and then once as a commissioner in charge hosting some people, and it changes the way you think about our water supply, the Bull Run watershed, and about the work that comes before us when you do the tour. And it's one of the most majestic places in the state of Oregon. And because it's so heavily protected, it's hard to get to, and very few people get the opportunity to do so. But we'd be honored, we'd be delighted to schedule that around your availability.
Fantastic, thank you.
And evidently my stipulation about everybody should do it once and probably no more doesn't apply to the commissioner in charge or the employees who do it. But I will tell you, Commissioner Fish, that I did it as part of the 1995 Community Watershed Grant that I got from the Bureau of Environmental Services, which you also manage. So that was really my awakening, as you say, as to what some of the issues are in our entire region, not just in the small elementary school that I was the parent in at the time. But actually, I know that some of my staff have not been on that tour either, so I would ask if they can join. That would be great.
Terrific, thank you.
And Commissioner Fish, I don't have anything comparable to offer, but if you'd ever like to do a Life of a Permit tour at BDS, you're welcome to join me.
I was hesitant to say this, but we also do a wonderful tour of the Columbia Wastewater Treatment Facility. And
No, I've done that one too.
I was there last Friday with Todd, and Steve Barrett gave us the tour, and but it's actually another amazing thing, because when you see how they manage $80 million of wastewater a day, and then it's put back into the Willamette or the Columbia, and it's perfectly safe. It's an extraordinary engineering marvel.
From an engineering standpoint, I love looking at it too myself.
Yeah, I did it with 4th and 5th graders, so I think you haven't lived until you've done a wastewater treatment plant with 4th and 5th graders. Shortly after that, I decided I needed a better occupation.
I will take your word for that, on that. Any further discussion? And this is a first reading, so we'll move it to second reading. Carla, could you please call the next item?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 751, create a local improvement district to construct street, sidewalk, and stormwater improvements in the North Burlington Avenue and Edison Street Local Improvement District.
Great, this is the second reading, so Carla, please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Fritz.
I have to just note, thank you, President Udaley, and thank you for your leadership as President of the Council over the last 6 months. So I'll be taking over next week if the vote goes as planned, and I really admire how you have stepped into the Council role as President in your very first term on the Council. So thank you and well done. Aye.
Udaley.
Thank you very much. I still feel like I'm getting the hang of it, but I'll be much more prepared the second time around. Aye. All right, so I can't believe, I think this is the easiest council session I've had in my first 6 months on council, so before anything goes wrong, we're adjourned.
Well done.